Alright, so a lot of you guys really seem to enjoy the new top 5 series that I made, where I rank the top 5 characters in every single class in Injustice 2 Mobile. So in case you don't know how this works, it's really simple. Basically, in Injustice 2 Mobile, there's 5 different classes, or there's 5 different types of characters. There's Metahuman, there's Arcane, there's Agility, there's Tech, and then there's Might. For every single class, I made a top 5 of the best characters in that class, and so this video is just a mashup of all the different videos that I made. Anyways guys, with all that being said, I hope you guys have a nice day, stay safe and stay clean, and don't forget to hit that like and that subscribe button, because these videos take me a really long time to make, so I would really appreciate the support. Anyways, with that being said, thank you guys for the support that you do show me, and let's start the video. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Justice League Superman. Justice League Superman is not only a legendary character, but he's also a part of the Justice League team, which means that when you pair him up with Justice League Cyborg and Justice League The Flash and those characters, he's going to be doing insane amounts of basic attack damage. But also on top of that, if you go watch any Raid's gameplay, this guy also does a decent amount of damage with his Special 3. In terms of his passives, there's also definitely a lot to go over. So his first passive makes it so that whenever there's a Batman character in the battle, whether it be a teammate or an opponent, Justice League Superman will gain attack. And if Wonder Woman is in the battle as a teammate or as an opponent, Justice League Superman will gain health. In addition, if Justice League Superman has Batman and Wonder Woman teammates, any buffs that he gets from any opponent or any teammate will also go to his Batman and Wonder Woman teammates. Moving on to his passive 2, his passive 2 makes it so that whenever he has Justice League or legendary teammates with him, he gives them extra defense. This is obviously a really good thing because it's going to save you gear slots on your gear talents, which means you're going to be able to focus more on doing damage. Moving on to Justice League Superman's passive 3, his passive 3 makes it so that whenever he's tagged out and an opponent performs a special ability on one of his teammates, then he will swoop in and interrupt that special and also slam down and do a bunch of damage to the opponent. Every single time he does this, there's a cooldown for the next time that he could do this again. And unfortunately, recently Justice League Superman was nerfed, and this passive was greatly nerfed. It doesn't do as much damage now as it once used to. Moving on to his special abilities, Justice League Superman's Special 1 makes it so that whenever you use it, he cleanses himself of any sort of negative effects applied to him. So for example, if the opponent inflicted dot damage, once Justice League Superman uses his Special 1, it will cleanse himself of that dot damage. Moving on to his Special 2, like many different Might characters in this game, he has a reflective shield. However, this reflective shield is a little bit different in the sense that whenever he reflects the damage that's coming towards him, not only is he going to reflect it, but he's also going to be gaining health from it. Now, I don't really need to explain how overpowered this is, and me personally, I don't really like reflective shields in this game, but just because it's legendary Superman, I think it's okay and it is really badass. Finally, his Special 3 inflicts burning, which will cut in half the opponent's defense. So as you can see, Justice League Superman definitely lives up to the legendary status, but we do have to keep a couple of things in mind. First of all, in order to really maximize this character, you pretty much need to have the Justice League team. And getting some of those characters nowadays, including Justice League Cyborg, can be a really big pain in the ass. Not to mention that getting Justice League Superman promoted all the way up to 6 stars is going to be a pain in the ass on its own, just because he's a legendary character and getting legendary shards can be kind of difficult. Also, getting the gears for Justice League Superman is another problem entirely. So long story short, Justice League Superman is an amazing character. He's really great, he lives up to the legendary status, but unfortunately there are some inconveniences when getting this character and really maxing him out, which is why he's coming in at number 5. Anyways, moving on to number 4 is going to be Multiverse Armored Supergirl. Multiverse Armored Supergirl is an amazing character, and she's definitely one of the most diverse and prepared characters out there, because it almost seems like no matter what opponent you put in front of her way, she's going to be able to demolish them, along with the help of her multiverse team. Now, because she is a multiverse teammate, a lot of her buffs and just stuff that work really great for her are also applied with the multiverse team, and of course the multiverse team is going to have passives that are really going to help her out, which means that if you really want to maximize the usage of this character, you're really going to want to have the multiverse team. However, that does not mean that she's a bad character as a standalone character. It just kind of means that it's a little bit inconvenient if you just want to get on and using her by herself. Anyways, now let's talk about her passives. Her passive 1 makes it so that if there's any multiverse character in the battle, whether they be a teammate or an opponent, she will gain power bars at the start of the battle. This is a really nice passive to have because Multiverse Armored Supergirl has really strong special abilities. I'll talk about the special abilities more in a second, but now let's move on to her passive 2. Her passive 2 makes it so that whenever there's a might opponent, Multiverse Armored Supergirl is going to gain extra power generation. Moving on to her passive 3, whenever one of her multiverse teammates are getting attacked by a special ability and Multiverse Armored Supergirl is tagged out, you can tag in Multiverse Armored Supergirl so she can interrupt the special ability of the opponent, and whenever she does this, she will gain power bars. Now again, keep in mind that Multiverse Armored Supergirl has really great special abilities, so this passive is really great for her. Anyways, now moving on to her special abilities, her special 1 does dot damage, and it also inflicts burning, and what burning will do is it will take the opponent's defense and cut it in half. However, unlike Justice League Superman's burning, this burning has an extra buff, and what it will also do is it'll make it so that the opponent cannot resist any crit attacks from multiverse characters. In addition, this special ability will do extra damage towards might opponents. Moving on to her second special ability, her special 2 makes it so that herself and her multiverse teammates will gain critical attack immunity and will also increase their defense. Now moving on to her special 3, her special 3 will do more damage towards burning opponents, which means that it's usually better to use your special 1 and then use your special 3 so that way you do extra damage, and it will also give you reflection immunity. But also on top of that, it will increase your crit chance and crit damage. So just like I said, Multiverse Armored Supergirl is definitely versatile and pretty much ready for anything that's thrown in her path. That's what makes her such a great character. Plus, because of all the buffs that she gets on her special abilities and all the buffs that she gets from her passives and her multiverse teammates, she will be doing a good amount of damage in raids as well. Now moving on to number 3 is going to be Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd. Now, I'm just going to say this right now, I think that Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd as a character is a lot better than the number 2 spot. However, the number 2 spot is a lot more convenient than Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd. And the reason why is because, well, Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd is really inconvenient. Just like with Justice League Superman, he's a legendary character, which means that getting his shards is going to be kind of difficult. It's going to take you a while. However, the good news is that there is a versus challenge where you can unlock him. However, on top of that, getting his gears is also really hard. So that's just something that is really annoying to go through. Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd is also a Batman Ninja character, which means that he's not going to support every single character in your roster with his buffs. So that's also one small downside to this character. However, aside from that, Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd is a really good might character. His passive 1 makes it so that himself and his Batman Ninja teammates will be doing more damage on their successful 5th basic attack hit. And in addition, you will also be taking away damage and defense from the opponent for a certain amount of time. His passive 2 makes it so that whenever he's at 30% of health, Gorilla Grodd will temporarily boost his lethal attack chance and heal himself for a percentage of his basic and swipe damage dealt. Finally, his passive 3 makes it so that whenever himself and his Batman Ninja teammates land an unblocked lethal attack hit, they will gain power. This passive is honestly really fun to use because you can gain power ridiculously quickly. Moving on to his special abilities, his special 1 does more damage towards blind opponents. And his second special ability is just a reflective shield, which obviously reflects damage. Moving on to his special 3, when it comes to the Batman Ninja team, whenever there's any healing involved, and Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd has recently used his special 3, the healing will be buffed and also part of it will be distributed to the entire Batman Ninja team. So, overall as a character, Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd is a really great support character, and a lot of people like to use him in raids. And the main reason why is because of his passive 1 and his passive 3. With his passive 3, whenever Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd is doing a combo string and he lands those lethal attack hits, he's going to be generating power really quickly. And obviously with the basic attack hits, he will also make it so that the opponent has less defense and will be doing less damage, thanks to his passive 1. This character is definitely a character that you want to get off of the versus challenge as soon as possible, because thank God getting his shards isn't really that hard, but unfortunately you are still going to need to get a lot of shards to promote him all the way up to 6 stars or 5 stars, and also getting his gears is really hard because you can either get it through chests or you can pay for it. However, with all that being said, Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd is still a really great character. Now moving on to number 2, the number 2 spot is going to go to Power Girl. Now, Power Girl is definitely one of the best support characters out there, just like Dr. Fate, and the reason why these two characters are such great support characters is simply because of their really simple passive. As a matter of fact, this passive is so good and so simple, yet again, so good, that I'm not even going to go over her special abilities or anything else, just that one passive that makes her great. So what the passive does is it simply takes away 2 power bars of cost on every single special ability. Now, when I put it like that, it might not seem like a big deal. However, in this game, every single time that you tag in and tag out, you gain a power bar. And when your special abilities cost 2 power bars less, and in this game you're going to be tagging in and out a lot, when you combine those two things, your special abilities are going to be ready to go in a super short amount of time. And also, a really cool thing about this passive is that it works for everybody. It's not specifically towards one team or some types of characters. It works for everybody, and it also works in every single game mode. In addition, just like I said when I was talking about Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd, this character is super convenient in the way you can unlock her because it's super easy. You can purchase her off the League store with League credits, and getting League credits is super easy because you get it every single time that you finish raids. You can also get her gears off of the League store as well. However, another really cool thing about this character is that both her shards and her gears drop from raid drops, which means that getting this character might not take you that much time at all. This character is really easy to get and has a really cool passive that's super useful in pretty much any situation, and that's why she's coming in at number 2. Now finally, coming in at the number 1 spot is going to be King of Atlantis Aquaman, which I'm sure everybody saw coming. Because like the thumbnail says, and it's not an exaggeration at all, King of Atlantis Aquaman is definitely God tier. As a matter of fact, I say this pretty much every single time that King of Atlantis Aquaman pops up on any list. I feel like I can just say his name and then just move on, because everybody knows how badass King of Atlantis Aquaman is. I'm going to start off talking about his special abilities because his special 3 is absolutely insane. Basically, whenever you use a special 3, not only will it be doing its regular damage, but also the first 3 special 3s that you use in raids and in solo raids, it will be taking away a percentage of the opponent's health. The reason why this is so great is because even if you just unlock the character, even if you're a noob at the game, it really doesn't matter, because as soon as you use a special 3, you're going to pretty much automatically be doing a lot of damage. However, again, this is only effective in raids and in solo raids, but this is still an amazing thing because for solo raids, it's going to be a lot easier for you to defeat your opponents, which means it's going to be easier to get your rewards, and for regular raids, this is going to help you climb those rankings every single raids, so that way you get better rewards. On top of that, unlocking this character is really easy. As a matter of fact, it's just as easy as unlocking Power Girl, because you can just go buy this guy off of the League store, which means you don't have to test out your luck, spending gems, opening up chests, or any of that. You can just go buy his shards, and the same applies for his gear. Unfortunately though, his shards do not drop off of raid rewards, but it's not really a big deal because getting his shards is really easy and really cheap, but fortunately, his gears do drop from raid rewards. Anyways, now let's talk about his passives. His passive 1 makes it so that every single time that you use a special ability, you gain more attack, and this will stack up to 600% more attack. However, this is only effective in raids. His passive 2 is effective in any game mode, and what it does is that every single time that you use a super move, it will disable the enemy's super move for 1 minute, and it will also power drain them a little bit. And finally, his passive 3 is also effective in any game mode, and what it does is that whenever you die, you come back to life according to how many power bars you have. When this passive is maxed out, every single power bar that you have counts as 10% of your health. King of Atlantis Aquaman is definitely the damage king. He's really easy to use. He's really helpful for beginners and pretty much anybody to unlock a lot of characters in raids and in solo raids, and that's why he's coming in at the number 1 spot. Start the video. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Silver Cyborg. Now, Silver Cyborg was also in my video of the top 5 best silver characters in the game, and again, like I said, there just isn't really that many great, outstanding tech characters out there, so there's no surprise that he's on this list as well. Silver Cyborg doesn't have a lot of passives or really anything super special about him, but his passive is pretty nice. Basically, whenever he's tagged out, he will generate health. However, one thing that's also really great about him is the fact that his special 3 does a good amount of damage, which means that as long as you build him up, he is definitely useful in raids. He's also, like I said earlier on, one, a silver character, which means that getting shards for him isn't really that hard. However, also keep in mind that because he's a silver character, you're never going to be getting his gear drops from raid rewards, which can really suck because you're going to have to go ahead and manually level up every single one of his gears up to level 60 or 70, whichever one you want. And I really wish some silver characters would get a refactor so they can get more passives, because just having a few nowadays isn't really that competitive because so many other characters have so many different passives or so many different things going on with their abilities. In terms of Cyborg's abilities, the only thing he does is power drain, but his special 3 is the special that allows him to do a good amount of damage. One more thing I want to say about Silver Cyborg is that this character is really cool in the sense that he's a tank, but he's also a damage dealer, and there really isn't any consequences to him when you want to build him one way or another, because you can build him both ways. Because of his passive, he's already naturally a tank, so if you want to just heal him up, tag him out for a little bit and he's going to be fine. But then again, with his special 3, which does a lot of damage, that's just a damage dealing factor, which means that you're going to have the best of both worlds, and I just think that's really badass. Now moving on to number 4 is going to be Silver Batman. This guy is the very first character that you're going to unlock when you start playing Injustice 2 Mobile, and getting his shards, again because he's a silver character like Cyborg, isn't going to be that hard. However, just like with every silver character, you're also going to have to take the time to manually level up every single one of his gears, because they just don't drop from gear rewards. In terms of Silver Batman's passives, he only does one thing, and that's giving his entire team extra critical attack chance. This isn't really anything mind-blowing, but the reason why he's at number 4 is because of his special 3, which has a secret multiplier, which means that he's going to be doing a lot of damage with his special 3. That's why you're going to see a lot of people using him in raids. Aside from that, his special 2 also has a stun bomb, and it lasts for a good amount of time, about 6 seconds. However, keep in mind that stuns don't really go off that much nowadays because there's so much stun resistance and crit resistance and all that stuff. I will say that me personally, I prefer Silver Cyborg over Silver Batman, but just because Silver Batman is so popular and I just see a lot more people using Silver Batman, I decided to put him at number 4. However, that's definitely not saying that Batman is a bad character or anything like that. He is pretty good and he is really easy to get, which is a really good thing. Anyways, now moving on to number 3 is going to be Predator Batman. Predator Batman is an OG character, and I really like using this guy. You guys see me using him all the time to destroy legendary teams, because his passive is really good in Arena. Basically, whenever you tag him in, he takes away about 15% of the entire enemy's current health, which means that as long as you keep tagging him in and tagging him out, he's going to be really slowly chipping away at all of the opponent's health, and it's really satisfying. However, unfortunately, this passive does not work in raids, and he doesn't have any other passive, which is a pretty big bummer. I would definitely like to see a refactor of this character, or I guess not really a refactor, just have them add either more passives or more things to his special abilities. However, his special abilities are pretty diverse. His special 1 does armor piercing and it's pretty strong. His special 2 has a stun bomb, just like Silver Batman, and it also lasts about 6 seconds. And his special 3, just like with Silver Batman, also has a secret multiplier, which means it's going to be doing a good amount of damage. The one thing that kinda kills this character is the fact that you cannot get him anymore off of the Arena store, which is previously where you could get his shards. And also, unfortunately, there's really no other store or any other place that you can definitively get him from, so now the only real way to get him is through chests, which of course is not a good thing at all because the chests in this game are really scammy. You can still get his gears off of raid drops, however, me personally, I've never gotten any shards for Predator Batman off of the raid drops, only gears. This character, in my opinion, could have made it up to the number 2 on this list, but just the fact that his shards are really difficult to get nowadays, again, just kinda kills this character. However, I definitely think he's better than Silver Batman and Silver Cyborg, just because I think Predator Batman is a lot more useful, not just in raids, because again, his special 3 will be doing a decent amount of damage, just like Cyborg and Batman, but also Predator Batman is really useful in Arena. Anyways, with that being said, let's move on to the top 2 on this list. Coming in at number 2 is going to be Justice League Cyborg. Justice League Cyborg is definitely an old character, but he holds up really well just because the amount of damage that he and his team are going to be doing with their basic attack hits is absolutely insane. And there's no denying that Justice League Cyborg is definitely the backbone of the Justice League team just because of his passives. His passive makes it so that he's immune to stun, and he gets 3 power bars whenever he gets targeted by stun. But also, most importantly, he gives himself and his Justice League teammates 300% more damage on their basic attack hits. Not only is that really useful in raids to be doing a lot of damage, but I also really like using the Justice League team to finish my arena battles, my campaign battles, my champions arena battles, my resource mission battles. I can finish all those battles incredibly quickly with the Justice League team, and they save me so much time. In terms of Justice League Cyborg's special abilities, his special 2 does power drain, and it does a really good amount of power drain, which is really great. Not only are you going to be destroying your enemies with your basic attack hits, but you're also kind of disabling them from doing a lot of damage with their special abilities by power draining them. However, just like with Predator Batman, there is one main bad thing about him, and that's how to get his shards, because the only real way to get his shards is through chests. You might be able to get him off of raid drops, but I've never gotten any shards for Justice League Cyborg off of raid drops, and you used to be able to get him through the arena, but just like with Predator Batman, they took him out, and he also used to evade the arena, but he doesn't do that anymore. So you might have to spend a couple 100,000 gems to unlock this character, but I really like using this character, and especially when you have the entire team, it is really useful, so I definitely think it's worth the investment. Anyways, now moving on to the number 1 spot, it's got to go to Legendary Brainiac. No, of course, I'm joking. He's a terrible character. Don't even try to get him. Get Cyborg instead. But for the number 1 spot on this list, it's gonna go to Legendary Black Mana. First of all, half of the legendary characters in this game are pretty much utter garbage and they're not really useful, whereas the other half are useful in some situations. But the one legendary character that I really want to get, that I'm excited to get, hopefully at some point, is going to be Black Mana. Because Black Mana himself is the main part of his team. You don't have Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd. He's a good character, don't get me wrong, but with Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd, you're mainly going to be using him as support. And to really take the time to unlock a legendary character, I would expect the legendary character to actually be the main damage dealer or just the main focus of the team. Same thing goes with Arkham Knight Batman, because you're usually going to be using him with Heartbreaker Harley Quinn, and Heartbreaker Harley Quinn is going to be the main character in that team. But with Black Mana is the focus of his team, and I really like that. And he's an offensive character, which I really like. The only other legendary character that comes to mind that can really stand well on his own is going to be Justice League Superman, but of course he's not a tech character, so I'm just going to count Black Mana today. And Black Mana, again, because he's an offensive character, he does have a lot of defensive stats. He's just my favorite legendary character of them all. His passive 1 is called Open Wounds, and it basically makes it so that whenever you use a special ability, you heal block the opponent. But not only do you heal block them, which means they won't be able to heal up, but you're also going to be applying a crazy amount of dot damage. His passive 2 makes it so that every single time that he lands a basic attack hit and the opponent doesn't block it, his basic attack hits will start stacking damage on top of each other, and it multiplies up to 100 times. So whenever he blocks an attack and he consistently keeps blocking attacks, the amount of damage reduction that his blocks are going to have is going to keep on increasing. And also on top of that, his passive 3 also makes it so that he gets more health. So you can see that with these passives, not only is he an offensive character, but you also don't really have to worry about his health that much because he's got a lot of really crazy defensive buffs as well. In terms of his special abilities, his special 1 makes it so that whenever you use it, the opponent's power generation will be slowed down. And his special 2 applies burning, which will halve the opponent's defense. His special 3 is also really interesting in the sense that it can stun, and it can even stun raid bosses as well. And every single time that he does stun the opponent, he will reduce the stun resistance of the opponent, which will make it easier for you to keep stunning them. So as you can see, Black Mana definitely lives up to being a legendary character because he's got so many different things going on for him. However, unsurprisingly, because this guy is a legendary character, not only is actually obtaining his shards really difficult, but also you're going to need a lot of shards to promote him up all the way. But again, just because this guy lives up to the legendary status and he's got a lot of really cool things going on for him, he's definitely coming in at the number 1 spot for the top 5 tech characters in Injustice 2 Mobile. Started. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Darkseid. Darkseid isn't just a legendary character, he's also probably the strongest tank in Injustice 2 Mobile. And the main reason why is because of his passive 2. So what his passive 2 does is, first of all, if you lose too much health too quickly, Darkseid will activate a barrier, and this goes for every single one of his teammates. And what the barrier does is it makes it so that you cannot take any damage for as long as the barrier lasts, and also it's not like the immortal ability of Catwoman where you still get, hit by attacks. You're just going to ignore the attacks with Darkseid's barrier as if nothing was happening. This is a huge difference because with the barrier, you can just interrupt combos if you want of your opponents. The barrier, however, can still be broken. However, you probably shouldn't really worry about that too much because the barrier is 500% of your current health. The passive 2 also has another buff on top of that. So what it also does is that whenever somebody dies in the battle, even if it's a minion, because Darkseid can summon minions with one of his special abilities, we'll talk about that in a second, Darkseid will gain 30% of their health and 30% of their attack. And this effect stacks. But then also, Darkseid's passive 3 makes it even harder to kill this guy. So what Darkseid's passive 3 does is it's basically a hazard and it drops this little hellfire from the sky. And what it'll do is it activates every couple of seconds, and if you're doing a special ability, if you're doing a combo, whatever you're doing, if you're not blocking, that hellfire will interrupt you. Which means that you really want to be careful when you're going to use your special abilities and when you're going to start building up a combo. Finally, as I said before, one of Darkseid's special abilities allows him to spawn in a minion, and Darkseid's passive 1 helps out this minion in a lot of ways. So Darkseid's passive 1 gives his minions 100% defense and 60% of his own health, which since Darkseid is a legendary character and most people build him as a tank, the Parademon's health is going to be insane. Anyways, now moving on to his special abilities, his special 1 does Armor Pierce, and his special 2 does Power Drain. And finally, for his special 3, that's the special that summons the Parademon, and this special ability also gives some buffs to the Parademon. So when the Parademon spawns in, he's also going to be getting 120% of the attack of Darkseid's and 74.5 critical attack chance. So this Parademon isn't only going to be stacked on defense and health, he's also going to be stacked on attack and critical attack chance. And also, whenever he dies, Darkseid is going to get 30% of that Parademon's health and 30% of their attack, along with any other character that dies in the battle. So long story short, Darkseid is harder than me than when I see Aunt May from the new Spider-Man movies. Now moving on to number 4 is going to be Black Adam. So before I talk about any passives or any special abilities, it's really important to mention that Black Adam is a glass cannon character, and not only is he a glass cannon character, but he's also a really heavy RNG character. So what a glass cannon character is basically that Black Adam does a good amount of damage, but when you're building up this character, you really don't want to use any health or defensive stats. Some people like to put them in there, and that's probably the most optimal for most amount of people, because we're going to talk about the RNG in a second. But technically speaking, the best build for Black Adam is to just go with attack and, critical attack and crit damage. However, because Black Adam's passives and special abilities pretty much rely on luck and RNG, this guy is a really unreliable character. And because of that, the idea of this guy just being pure glass cannon isn't really attractive because you can die really, really quickly, and it's pretty easy to be unlucky in this game. And when it comes to Injustice 2 Mobile, you already have all of these different factors that you don't have any control over, like the crazy AI, so dealing with RNG and Black Adam being low health is just kind of a headache sometimes. Alright, so now let's talk about his passives. Black Adam only has one passive, but it has many different parts to it. So it makes him immune to increase of power cost of abilities, it gives him 75% chance to stun on tag-in, and it gives him 10% power boost on special 1 per use, and it stacks up to 5 times, and finally, it gives him the chance that 7 power bars will be stolen when he uses his special 3. And the chances of you stealing the 7 power bars goes up the more that you level up his special 3. And this is honestly one of the coolest parts about Black Adam, because you could just keep spamming special 3s, assuming that you keep getting lucky. Moving on, Black Adam's special 1 increases power generation for a certain amount of time, and it also gives you a chance to reduce your special abilities costs. This special ability is really useful, because if it works properly, the amount that your special abilities costs will be reduced by is 3 power bars, which is insane. That's actually better than Dr. Fate and Power Girl's passive, but of course, you have the chance of this not working since there's a lot of RNG and luck involved. Moving on to Black Adam's special 2, it actually kinda does the opposite effect, where once you use it, you have a chance of making your opponent's special abilities cost more by 3 power bars, and it will reduce the opponent's basic attack damage. And in terms of Black Adam's special 3, I already said what it does. It basically increases the chances of you being able to steal 7 power bars whenever you use a special 3. Alright, so with all this being said, Black Adam is definitely a damage dealer. I already covered that since he's a glass cannon, and the way that most people like to use him is that, depending on the RNG, maybe it can be a minute, maybe it can be 2 minutes, you're basically going to want to be using your special 1, so that way you reduce the amount that your special abilities cost, and then you want to keep using your special 3 when it only costs about 2 power bars. And hopefully while you're using your special 3, you're going to be able to keep power draining the opponent by 7 power bars and stealing it for yourself, so that way you can keep spamming your special abilities. Towards the end of the match, if everything goes right, your power generation, and if you keep using your special 3s and it keeps working for you where you keep stealing power bars, is all that you're going to need to do. You're not really going to have to worry about using your special 1 at this point. However, if you keep getting unlucky, you might have to keep using your special 1s to keep using your special 3s a lot quicker. Alright, so moving on, coming in at the number 3 spot is going to be Silver Banshee. Silver Banshee is definitely an interesting character, and it all has to do with their passive, so I'm just going to read the paragraph the way it's written down, because it's just the easiest explanation. So it says, when Silver Banshee's special abilities damage an opponent affected by Torment, they deal increased damage and have a chance to disable their highest upgraded special ability for a duration. If an opponent's highest upgraded special ability is already disabled, then this passive chooses the next highest to become disabled instead. And all Arcane teammates' special 2s and special 3s benefit from Torment. Now, if you really don't understand how to use Silver Banshee, I'll explain it in 1 second. Let me just go over her special abilities. So her special 1 has a chance to inflict Torment on basic and swipe attacks for a good amount of time. And her special 2 applies Torment to the current opponent and forces them to tag out. And the opponents that are tagged out in this way cannot be tagged in for 16 seconds when maxed out. And if there is only one non-boss opponent remaining, all of the opponent's special abilities are disabled for 14 seconds instead. And finally, her special 3 makes it so that if an opponent is currently affected by Torment or is disabled in any way, the Sonic Boom, which is her special 3, deals 100% more damage per disabled special and is armor piercing. And the victim of this attack also takes increased damage from Torment. So there's definitely a lot of things going on, but it's actually a lot simpler than you might think. So first of all, when you go to raids, in order to be doing a lot of damage, all you have to do is first use your special 2, so that way you can inflict the Torment. And then right after that, all you have to do is keep spamming special 1s until about 3 of the opponent's special abilities are disabled, and then you use your special 3. And because the opponent has disabled special abilities and has Torment inflicted on them, then the special 3 is going to do a lot of damage. And when I say it's going to do a lot of damage, I mean it's going to do a lot of damage. However, the bad thing about this though is that this process takes quite a while to complete. So even if one special, let's say, gave you 3 million points or something like that, that's still a lot of damage. Don't get me wrong, that's really good. But the time that it takes to build up there sometimes can take quite a while, and then of course, you have the chances that your attacks might not even crit, but it's still worth it, just because even if one of them crits and let's say 3 of them don't, obviously that's gonna suck, but you're still gonna be doing a lot of damage. 2 other really cool things about Silver Banshee is that number 1, you can get her shards off of the challenge game mode, which means that even though unlocking her can take quite a while, at least you're guaranteed to be getting some of her shards whenever her challenge pops up. And also, I cannot remember off the top of my head, but not only does her first gear have defense as her base effect, but she also has another gear that has defense as her base effect, and I don't think any other character in this game has that. And since Silver Banshee is a damage dealer, the fact that she has 2 different gears giving her defense on base effect is really good, because you don't have to worry about her health as much. Anyways, now moving on to the top 2 Arcane characters. I'm pretty sure you guys can already imagine who they're gonna be, But for number 2, it's going to be Shazam. So the main reason why Shazam is such a great character is because of his passive 1. His passive 1 increases his arcane and might teammates attack by 100%. Keep in mind, this is only base attack, however, even then, this is still pretty damn OP. Now, of course, the only downside about this passive, and the real reason why he doesn't come in at number 1, is simply because it only works for might and arcane teammates. Anybody aside from that will not gain any benefit from this passive at all. However, the saving grace about this passive is that there's a lot of really great damage dealing arcane and might characters. So Shazam definitely has his place in this game. Now, another really cool thing about Shazam is that not only is he a really good support character, but he's also a really good tank. His passive 3 makes it so that if you get hit by a critical attack hit, the amount of damage that it's going to be doing is 100% less. And this works for the entire team. On top of that, his passive 2 makes it so that if he blocks a special ability from the opponent, he has a chance of ignoring it and then interrupting it with a special 3 of his own. And whatever special ability the opponent was trying to use on Shazam, that special ability will be disabled for a good amount of time. Moving on to his special abilities, his special 1 doesn't have any sort of special buffs. However, I've seen it before where if you corner the opponent, you can actually do an infinite combo with Shazam's special 1. Moving on to his special 2, his special 2 heals the entire team, but the amount that it heals is a percentage of the lowest teammate's health. And finally, his special 3 also heals, but it does it in the opposite way. The amount that you will heal up is a percentage of the maximum team's health. So honestly, overall as a character, Shazam is really simple, yet he's super effective, he's a great support, and he's a great tank. And that's why he's coming in at number 2. Now, coming in at the number 1 spot, we all know who it's going to be. It's going to be Silver Dr. Fate. And there's really only one reason why this guy is coming in at number 1. It's simply because of his passive. His passive makes it so that everybody's special abilities on your team is going to cost 2 power bars less. This works really perfectly with this game because one thing that everybody does a lot of is tag in and tag out. So if you tag out your damage dealer, let's just say as an example, and then you tag in your support, and then you tag out your support and tag in your damage dealer, that's 2 power bars gained right there. Not to mention that there's cooldown between the tag-ins, and you're also going to be wanting to build up your combo. So the time that it takes for your special ability to be ready to go is really low, and you're going to be able to use your special abilities really frequently. And another really cool thing about Dr. Fate is that this will work for anybody and in any game mode. Also, because Dr. Fate is a silver character and he's in the campaign, getting his shards is going to be really easy. So long story short, even though the story was already short, Dr. Fate is a really great support character. He's super useful in any scenario, and he's really easy to get, and that's why he's coming in at the number 1 spot. Get started. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Batman Ninja Robin. So when you go over to your roster and you filter out all the characters and just look at the agility characters, you can see that there's a lot of decent characters, and the first character that stands out in the top 5 I think is Batman Ninja Robin. He's definitely not god tier, but he's good enough to the point where I think he's above decent. Batman Ninja Robin has 3 different passives. His passive 1 makes it so that his combo will never go below 7 hits, and himself and his teammates will gain a combo meter bonus at the start of the battle, and also every single time that they tag in. Moving on to his passive 2, every single time that Batman Ninja Robin or one of his Batman Ninja teammates land a lethal attack hit, the lethal attack hits will start doing more damage. When you promote this passive to 6 stars, the amount of damage that lethals will start to do will be 30% more damage, and they stack. And the time in which this lasts is 14 seconds. Finally, Batman Ninja Robin's passive 3 makes it so that whenever himself or his Batman Ninja teammates are being hit by basic attack hits, but the basic attack hits of the opponent are missing due to blind, then Batman Ninja Robin and Batman Ninja teammates gain lethal attack chance. The amount of lethal attack chance that they get is 30%, and it'll last for 14 seconds, and just like his passive 2, this effect can stack. Moving on to his special abilities, his special 1 adds blind, which makes it so that the opponent will sometimes miss their attacks. And as for his special 2, this one is actually pretty interesting, because at the end of the special 2, this little monkey will throw a banana on the floor and it'll turn into a hazard, and if the opponent runs into the banana, they are forced to tag out. Now let's move on to his special 3. Batman Ninja Robin's special 3 is the main special that I use because it does 2 very important things. It has armor pierce, and it will also heal up Batman Ninja Robin for 60% of the damage that it's dealt. So as you can see, Batman Ninja Robin can definitely hold his own. I think his special 3 really completes this character because, being able to heal up and doing armor pierce, I think those are two very good things. So with that alone, I kind of feel like he's better than an average character, but then when you add his Batman Ninja teammates like Batman Ninja Gorilla Grodd and Batman Ninja Catwoman, this guy gets even better, and even though Batman Ninja Robin will never reach God tier or anything like that, I still think he's a good character. Now moving on to number 4 is going to be Arkham Knight Batman. Arkham Knight Batman is definitely better than an average character, and it's largely due to the fact that he's a legendary character, which means that he's got a lot of different buffs going on for him, and fortunately for Arkham Knight Batman, he wasn't one of those legendary characters that just really suck and there's no point in getting him, because amongst all those different buffs that he has, not only is it great just to be a good character overall, but also this guy is support for one of the best damage dealing teams in the game. His passive 1 gives 100% team's hazard and hazard dot damage, and it gives 60% defense for tech and agility teammates, and it gives 120% health for tech and agility teammates as well. This passive is really good for tech and agility teammates because you're never going to have to worry about their health. Moving on to Arkham Knight Batman's passive 2, whenever himself or one of his teammates knock out an opponent, they will gain health and they will gain power. The amount of power bars that they get is 3 power bars, and the amount of health that they regenerate is 30%. So again, just like with his passive 1, this is super tanky. Finally, Arkham Knight Batman's passive 3 makes it so that whenever a metahuman character tries to perform a special ability on you, Arkham Knight Batman will interrupt it and stun them instead. Arkham Knight Batman can do this up to 3 times per battle, and the stun will last 5 seconds. Now moving on to his special abilities, his special 1 automatically crits on stunned opponents, and Arkham Knight Batman's special 3 has the exact same buff. But Arkham Knight Batman's special 2 is really what makes this character interesting, and this is how he helps out his team to be doing a lot of damage. So in case you guys don't know who you want to pair up Arkham Knight Batman with, it's Heartbreaker Harley Quinn and Entangling Poison Ivy. Now, Heartbreaker Harley Quinn does a lot of damage even without Arkham Knight Batman, just because Entangling Poison Ivy really helps her out. But in addition, Heartbreaker Harley Quinn has this passive where whenever her opponent is stunned, she will be doing a lot more damage. And Arkham Knight Batman's special 2 stuns, but it doesn't just stun any regular opponent, it can also stun raid bosses and sub bosses as well. So as a character, I think Arkham Knight Batman is definitely a good character. The only real big downside to him is just the fact that he's legendary, and getting legendary shards in this game is really unpredictable and usually pretty hard to get. Anyways, with all that being said, let's move on to number 3, which is Batman Ninja Catwoman. So the main thing that makes Batman Ninja Catwoman such a good character is her passive 2, because her passive 2 has this buff called Immortal, and basically what this does is it makes you unkillable for 9 seconds when you're below 15% of your health. This doesn't just apply to herself because it works for her Batman Ninja teammates as well. Now this passive alone would definitely be really good in Arena, but thankfully Batman Ninja Catwoman's special 2 has a healing effect, which means that she can keep on healing herself up and keep on triggering this immortal buff, so that way you really never have to worry about her health and only have to worry about doing damage. And also, because Batman Ninja Catwoman is a Batman Ninja teammate, she's going to be getting all these great buffs from characters like Robin and Grodd. I really like characters like Batman Ninja Catwoman because you never really have to worry about their health, you never have to worry about them dying, you don't have to worry about any defensive stats or anything like that. You just let the character be and worry about doing damage, and that's it. Alright, so with all that being explained, now let's look at the rest of her passives and the rest of her special abilities. Her passive 1 makes it so that every single special ability of Catwoman will have the blind effect. And this blind effect will make it so that characters have a 50% chance of missing you when they try to attack you, and this lasts for 12 seconds. And her special 3 makes it so that whenever Batman Ninja Catwoman or one of her Batman Ninja teammates block a special ability, then they will gain 60% of the power that it cost of that special ability. In addition, if Batman Ninja Catwoman herself blocks a special ability of the opponent, then she will trigger for free her own special 3. Now, as cool as this sounds, sometimes when you're trying to do something else instead of using your special 3, maybe you're trying to build up a combo or something like that, this passive can really get in the way, because chances are somewhere throughout the match you're going to be blocking a special, and the chances of you wanting to use your special 3 at that point in time maybe might not be the best moment to do so. I've had it happen to me before where Batman Ninja Catwoman was at like 0 health, but she had the immortal ability, and I really wanted to use her special too, but then a special came along, I block it just because, you know, that's kind of your instinct to block special abilities, and then she triggered her special 3, and then after that, the AI recovered a lot quicker than she did, and so the AI was able to knock her out. I instead really wanted to use my special 2 so that way I could heal up. That's just one instance of, this passive kind of getting in the way, but at the same time, if you're doing everything correctly and you measure out when you want to do certain things, having free special 3s might not be the worst thing in the world. Moving on to her special abilities, her special 1 does more damage towards blind opponents, and her special 2 applies dot damage, and Batman Ninja Catwoman will heal up a percentage of that dot damage. And finally, her special 3 reduces power generation for the opponent, and it gives herself extra lethal attack chance. So Batman Ninja Catwoman by herself is definitely a good character, and with her Batman Ninja teammates, she turns into a really great character. She does a decent amount of damage and you never ever have to worry about her health, and that's why she's coming in at number 3. Now moving on to number 2, it's going to be Last Laugh Joker. Last Laugh Joker is a part of the League of Anarchy team, and the League of Anarchy team does a lot of basic attack damage, and it's honestly thanks to Entangling Poison Ivy's passives. Now without Entangling Poison Ivy, Last Laugh Joker is just kind of like a decent character, but just because with Poison Ivy, he really turns into a god tier character, I think it's fair enough to say that Last Laugh Joker is a god tier character. If the difference in damage probably wasn't that big, I might say that Last Laugh Joker was like number 4 or number 5 or something like that, but just because the difference in damage is so big, yeah, he's coming in at number 2. So with Entangling Poison Ivy, the League of Anarchy characters are going to be doing dot damage on top of their basic attack damage, and thanks to Last Laugh Joker's passive 2, Joker adds 150% of dot damage. And thanks to Last Laugh Joker's passive 1, whenever somebody dies in the battle, Last Laugh Joker will gain 50% more damage, which means that using Last Laugh Joker to fight characters like the sub-boss Gorilla Grodd and Brainiac P1 is such a good idea because you defeat the minions and then you gain attack, which means that you're going to be doing even more damage with your dot damage. And another really cool thing about doing dot damage on your basic attack hits is there really isn't any buildup. The moment you start fighting and the moment you start using your basic attack hits, which is pretty much whenever you want because you don't have to wait for them to charge up, you're going to start doing loads and loads of damage. Moving on, Last Laugh Joker's passive 3 also makes it so that whenever an opponent tags in, they have a 50% chance of being stunned. And this of course gives you a chance to be using your basic attack hits without the opponent blocking and pretty much annihilating them on the spot. Moving on to his special abilities, his special 1 does dot damage, and again, remember that because of Last Laugh Joker's passive 2, he's going to be doing a lot of dot damage with this special ability and with his basic attack hits. And his special 2 has a chance of inflicting blind, but also his special 2 also kind of allows you to do an infinite combo, as long as you keep having enough power to use special 2s, because after using a special 2, you can then swipe right and keep hitting your opponent, and by the time you're done with that combo string, you can use another special 2 and then just keep this cycle going. And finally, moving on to his special 3, his special 3 has a chance of forcing opponents to tag out. So with all that being said, I just want to point out a couple of extra things. First of all, using Last Laugh Joker in Arena, it's probably not the greatest idea. I mean, he's not a bad character or anything like that for Arena, but the problem is that nowadays, if you're going to fight high threat teams, the chances of them having a lot of stun resistance is pretty high. And of course, resistance and talents also applies to dot resistance, which means that the damage you're going to be doing with Last Laugh Joker might be greatly reduced. Also, one thing I kind of don't like about Last Laugh Joker is that he's not really tanky at all. He can very, very easily die from just one special, so you really want to be careful. However, thankfully, towards the end of the match when your power generation is super high, you can just do that kind of infinite combo with his special 2 and then tag in Entangling Poison Ivy when you're done. And Entangling Poison Ivy also has another passive that heals up her teammates. So with all that being said, even though sometimes you do have to be a little bit careful with Last Laugh Joker just to make sure he doesn't get killed too quickly, he still does a lot of damage and he's got really great teammates to back him up. Now, coming in at the number 1 spot is going to be Heartbreaker Harley Quinn. So she kind of works the same way as Last Laugh Joker, just in the sense that you're really going to be using her basic attack damage most of the time to be doing a lot of damage, because of course she's also a part of the League of Anarchy team, and Entangling Poison Ivy can also help her out. However, there's just two main differences with Heartbreaker Harley Quinn, which allows her to do more damage than Last Laugh Joker. So first of all, her fast attack is actually 3 instead of 2, which means that whenever her fast attack actually triggers, instead of doing 2 basic attack hits, she's going to be doing 3 basic attack hits. Even though the difference in fast attack might not seem super high because the difference is only 1, trust me, this 1 extra fast attack hit leads to a lot, and I mean a lot more damage. Because think about it, how many basic attack hits are you using in an entire match, especially with the League of Anarchy team? You're going to be using a lot. And so adding 1 extra hit on top of every single hit is going to lead to extra hundreds of basic attack hits, which is going to lead to a lot of damage. In addition, whenever an opponent is stunned, Heartbreaker Harley Quinn will be doing 300% more damage to them, which is where Arkham Knight Batman comes in. We already talked about that, of course. With his special 2, he can stun any bosses or sub-bosses or anybody. And so with the extra fast attack hits and the extra damage that you're going to be doing towards stunned opponents, Heartbreaker Harley Quinn does a lot more damage than Last Laugh Joker, and that's why she came in at number 1. In terms of our other passives, her passive 1 makes it so that the entire team, including Heartbreaker Harley Quinn, have a 75% chance to reflect stuns, and she also gives out extra XP. Her passive 2 decreases stun resistance of the opponents and also decreases the dot damage resistance for the opponents as well. And finally, her passive 3 is the one that adds extra damage towards stunned opponents, but this passive also has a second part to it. She decreases the amount that critical attack damage will be doing to the League of Anarchy team by 120%. Moving on to her special abilities, her special 1 applies dot damage, and she also decreases the amount of damage that the opponent is going to do. Moving on, her special 2 has a chance of stun, and finally her special 3 has armor piercing, and it also adds damage over time. Coming in at number 5 is going to be Reverse Flash. Reverse Flash is an interesting character. First of all, his fast attack hits are 3, which means that this guy is built to be a combo builder. But also, Reverse Flash's passive is one of those passives that can actually backfire on you if you're not careful. Reverse Flash's passive makes it so that whenever you tag him in, he has a 70% chance of swapping power with the opponent. So if you're not careful and you tag in Reverse Flash whenever you have more power than the opponent, that can actually be pretty bad because now the opponent is going to have more power than you. In terms of his special abilities, none of them have any sort of buffs. So there really isn't that much to say about Reverse Flash. He's a combo builder, so obviously you're just going to be using your basic attack hits to build up your combo, and you also want to be really careful when you want to tag him in and when you want to tag him out. Moving on, coming in at number 4 is going to be Horrific Scarecrow. Scarecrow is a support character, and like Reverse Flash, he's really simple. His passive increases the amount that special abilities are going to cost for the opponent by 2 power bars, and it will also take away 8% of the opponent's attack. In terms of his special abilities, his special 1 has armor pierce, and his special 2 drops a really big hazard on the floor, and whenever the opponent is in the hazard, their special abilities will be disabled. Characters like Horrific Scarecrow are really fun to use because you can pretty much put them with anybody and he will work. He will be helpful because, again, he's supposed to be a support character. And it's also really great when a character doesn't need that many different passives or doesn't have to be super complicated just because the one passive that they have is, good enough. The one thing that is kind of unfortunate about Horrific Scarecrow is that you cannot get him off of the arena store anymore, which means that you're probably going to have to get him off of chests from now on. And I'm pretty sure everybody preferred to go get his shards off of the arena store because at least you were guaranteed to get him at some point as long as you kept buying his shards. But aside from that, Horrific Scarecrow is a really simple character and a really fun character to use. Moving on to number 3 is going to be Multiverse the Flash. Multiverse the Flash is already part of one of the most diverse teams in the entire game, and so obviously no matter what passives or no matter what's going on with his special abilities, he's going to gain a ton of buffs on top of that because of his teammates. However, even without the Multiverse team, Multiverse the Flash is still a good character, and he's definitely a really great combo builder for any team since his fast attacks are 3. If we go look at his passives, his first passive gives his entire Multiverse team 52% critical attack chance, and he gives any team 43% critical attack damage. This passive is really useful for his Multiverse team just because you're not going to have to worry about damage stats on their gear talents because Multiverse the Flash already kind of does that for you, which means that for the rest of your damage dealing characters on the Multiverse team, all you really have to focus on is adding attack. Moving on to his passive 2, this only works for the Multiverse team, and what he does is he reduces the amount that special abilities are going to cost for the Multiverse team. The first special ability for every Multiverse character is going to cost 1 power bar less, and the second special ability and the third special ability for the Multiverse team is going to cost 2 power bars less. I don't really need to explain why this passive is so great, but basically you're going to be able to spam your special abilities a lot more often. Finally, his special 3 only applies to himself. So whenever Multiverse the Flash is targeted by a special ability by a tech opponent, Multiverse the Flash will ignore it, and instead, he will do this jump attack and slam down on the opponent and do a lot of damage to them. Moving on to his special abilities, his special 1 and his special 2 does not have any sort of special buff, but his special 3 does have stun. So Multiverse the Flash without his multiverse team is definitely a decent support character, but definitely with the multiverse team, he is a really necessary character to have alongside Multiverse Armored Supergirl. When you pair up these two characters together, amazing things begin to happen. Because of Multiverse the Flash's passives, Multiverse Armored Supergirl is not going to have to worry about, adding crit chance or adding crit damage. Instead, Multiverse the Flash will do all that work for her, and he will also build up a combo, so that way all you really have to worry about with Multiverse Armored Supergirl is doing damage. In addition, because Multiverse the Flash isn't really going to be the main damage dealer in any team, if you really want, you could just build Multiverse the Flash as a tank and just never have to worry about his health. So there's definitely a lot of different uses that Multiverse the Flash has, but just because he's one of the best characters in one of the most diverse teams in the entire game, he's going to come in at number 3. Coming in at the number 2 spot is going to be another team character, and that's going to be Justice League the Flash. So Justice League the Flash, just like Multiverse the Flash, is a part of a really good team. And just like Multiverse the Flash, Justice League the Flash is definitely a character that you really want to have with the Justice League team. So Justice League the Flash has 2 really important things going on for him, and that's his passive and his fast attack. So first of all, Justice League the Flash has a 3-hit fast attack. Most characters only have 2, but the reason why it's such a big deal with this character is because he's a part of the Justice League team, and the Justice League team really shines when they do a lot of basic attack damage. And so having extra fast attack hits means that every single time that your basic attack hits are doing a lot of damage, they're going to be doing extra damage with an extra hit. And Justice League the Flash's passive is really great for that exact same reason, because his passive makes it so that everybody's fast attack goes up by 1 hit, which means that if you have a team that consists of, let's say, Justice League Cyborg or Justice League Aquaman or whoever, they're going to gain extra fast attack hits, and their fast attack is only 2, which means it's going to go up to 3. However, Justice League the Flash's passive also applies to himself. So Justice League the Flash starts off with 3 fast attack hits, which is already above normal, and then on top of that, with his passive, it's going to go up by another number, so now he's going to be doing 4 times the damage with his basic attack damage. On top of that, Justice League the Flash's passive also has a second part to it, where every single Justice League teammate gets to use their first special ability, and it will be unblockable. Moving on to his special abilities, his special 1 and his special 3 doesn't have any sort of effects or buffs, but his special 2 does, and it's stun. And just a fun fact, I just found this out, but if you go over to his special 2, for whatever reason, it can actually go above 100%, which I'm not really sure how that works, but basically, if you level it up all the way up to level 70, it has a 169% chance to stun, which again, I don't know how that makes sense, but I can say confidently that this is complete BS. I mean, think about it. This is technically saying that if you went out to arena and you fought any team, it really doesn't matter how much stun resistance they have, then you would pretty much be guaranteed to stun anybody with this. And it really doesn't matter if the opponent has maxed out stun resistance, because even if they did reach 75% stun resistance, you would still have a 94% chance to stun them. And I can tell you for a fact right now, I've been using this character for a really long time, and he definitely does not have a 94% chance to stun. But even if he did, even if he didn't, it really doesn't matter that much to me, just because again, the main points of this character is the fact that he's got extra fast attack hits, and his passive gives everybody else extra fast attack hits. So long story short, Justice League the Flash is a really simple character, he's a really great team character, and he's just proof that you don't really need to be super complicated in order to be good. And so that's why he's coming in at number 2. Finally, coming in at number 1 is going to be the holy grail of support characters, and that's going to be Entangling Poison Ivy. I'm going to make this explanation as quick as possible, just because even though she does technically have a lot of things going on for her, she's got 3 different passives, some of her special abilities have some buffs and effects, it really doesn't matter, because ultimately she's really good for one thing, and that's supporting the League of Anarchy team, whether it be, Heartbreaker Harley Quinn or Last Laugh Joker, and whoever the third character might be. So first of all, she gives herself and her League of Anarchy teammates 75% additional damage over time on basic attack hits. This is really the center of the League of Anarchy team and where their really crazy damage comes from, because of course the League of Anarchy team does a lot of dot damage and a lot of basic attack damage. In addition, Entangling Poison Ivy's passive 3 makes it so that 50% of her dot damage will heal up herself and her entire team. So just because of those two passives alone, Entangling Poison Ivy is going to come in at number 1, because the League of Anarchy team is one of the strongest teams out there and one of the best teams out there as well, and it couldn't be possible without Entangling Poison Ivy. Anyways guys, with all that being said, I hope you guys have a nice day, stay safe and stay clean, and I'll see you guys later.